Good evening, everyone. It's Friday night. It's Friday Night Likes. We took a little hiatus there for a while. We're back with a vengeance, going straight into the playoffs. Tonight, we've got three former winners with us, all competing in a battle royale to see who is going to go through to the final of Friday Night Likes. We're going to go around the ring, and everybody can introduce themselves, say who they are, where they are, what they're drinking, and let's start with Tommy.
Evening, everyone. I'm Irish Tommy. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Tomster36. 1 a.m. in the morning here, and like a good Irish boy, I'm drinking tea.
Nice one, Tommy. Is it Barry's?
No, it's actually an English brand called Tetley.
Oh, Tetley. Yeah. Fair enough. I'm going to say I'm partial to Yorkshire myself, but tea's a good drink of choice. Mark, on to you, sir. How are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark at West_Ham_Philly, representing the Philly Hammers, meeting at Stowe's Bar. Not at the moment due to a pandemic, but typically between 2nd and 3rd and Market. 8 p.m. here in Philly, drinking Rolling Rock until I run out of those.
Nice. And that would be a state beer if Budweiser hadn't bought it like 10 years ago and moved their brew into Jersey, but whatever. Decent brew, though. The man who never looks at the camera, Charlie. Who are you? Where are you? What are you drinking?
Camera's overrated, John. Listen, if I've been doing this YouTube stuff now for about 6-7 years, one thing I learned, never make eye contact. Never make eye contact. Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I've got a pint of water. I almost looked there, but I refused to, now out of principle. Yeah, I wasn't even, I lost my ground, of course, to Tom. And I thought, that'd be the end of my season. I can wait till the next one I won last season. I thought I could sit this one out. And then today, Tim was like, yo, do you want to be the wild card as the former winner? I was like, yeah, sure. Whenever you need me. He's like, cool, tonight. And I'm like, oh, okay, right, let's go then. So we're here. You know me. I do it on the night. We'll see where we go. And yeah, excited.
It's going to be exciting stuff. Charlie, thank you for joining us. Of course, neglected to mention, was the former champion from last season. Could be the champion this season.
And I'd like you to address me as such, please.
We'll see how it goes.
Would be beneficial. Thank you.
And of course, the host with the most, or the hostess. Now, what is it? It's not even a host. Are you host? Secondary host?
I'm like sidekick.
Co-host.
Sidekick.
Sidekick with the craziest drink combinations. I hope you don't disappoint. Wally, who are you? Where are you? And what are you drinking?
I'm Wally from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. I'm drinking some nice spring water tonight from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. So that's nothing special, though. So cheers. That
actually probably shares the exact flavor profile of water anyway. But cheers to you, Wally. I'm going to boot you back. Wally is going to keep the score for us. This is Friday Night Likes. I got a bunch of questions. These guys are going to answer the questions. They give me good answers. They're going to get a thumbs up for a good answer. Player with the most amount of points wins. One player does get booted at halftime, and then they can go cause hell in the chat room, and two go through to answer a few more questions and determine the winner. So with that being said, let's get underway. Question number 1, and we're going to start our line of questioning around Sebastian Haller. What do we make of Haller so far? Good, bad? Is he kind of indifferent, ambivalent? What do we make of him? Tommy, let's start with you.
Well, if the question is, has Haller been good, bad, or indifferent? The answer is that Haller has been good, bad, and indifferent. So, for example, in the Leeds game, we all saw he just had an absolute mare, falling over, slipping, heavy touch, passing the ball to opponents, getting dispossessed too easily, but then I thought in our last game against Palace, I thought he was actually much better. Even if we weren't as a team, I thought we were very poor for a lot of the game, but I did think that Haller was much better in that game. Now, obviously, he scored an absolute worldie of an overhead kick, and if only we could deliver the ball like that to him every time, he would score, he'd have 30 goals a season. They would all be overhead kicks. He's just absolutely brilliant at them. But yeah, he's obviously a divisive player when it comes to the fan base. Some people think, just put him in leave him in and he'll be fine. Other people just think it's a loss and we should just move him on. But I'm a little bit in the middle. I'd like to see him play a few more games up top, because I think there is a player there. And I just got the impression actually in the Palace game that actually maybe he is actually just starting to settle back into the team and starting to gel with his teammates now that he's getting a little run of games. So I'd like to see those run of games continue. I think he'll almost certainly start against Chelsea. So I have a feeling that he's that kind of player that needs to kind of get into a little bit of a rhythm. So I think he'll continue to improve if we let him in. But his season so far, to answer the question, has been very mixed. He's blown hot and cold, and it's hard to get a handle on Haller, I think, on what kind of player do we actually have. And I think we still don't really know, unfortunately.
You agree with that, Mark? Or you think he's been good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, I mean, he's had good moments. He's had bad moments. Indifferent, if that means that he's been fine, that he's been adequate, then sure, he's been indifferent. I don't think that he gets himself the ball as much as he needs to get him. I mean, that's kind of his game. He's kind of like the target man. I don't think he's got himself enough chances. He needs to get himself more chances. He's done a pretty good job of capitalizing on his chances. He's got to get himself more. I mean, he's got to make himself open. I mean, Jesus Christ, that bike was insane. That was I shit myself. I jumped off the couch after that. And I think that's all you can really say. I mean, he's been okay. He's been fine, but it's clear that he's not the type of striker that fits in Moyes' strategy, that fits in his formation. That's not. He just doesn't fit that way. He needs someone to play with. So, I think until you get him that help and he's in that role, he's never going to be able to be more than adequate.
I think we'll get a bit more into that. But Charlie, where do you stand on Haller? Good, bad, indifferent?
I get a lot of flack for this whenever I do the watch-alongs on Hammers Chat, because people don't like that I like him. People are like people get very angry about Haller in the chat, and I'm like, you know what? He's a good lad, and people aren't keen on that. So just for the sake of it, I'm going to say good. Why not? I think he's our top goal scorer this season. Next question. I think he for someone who has played so badly, reportedly by some people in some games, and I think, for example, Tommy, you listed one there as the Leeds game where he was bad. Like, he was actively bad, and even I was looking at it, and I think he's not had a good game, and that's a big Haller fan. He's the top goal scorer. He's done it in a system which doesn't suit him. He's done it in a team which doesn't suit him. For a manager who hasn't bought him, it doesn't make sense. Like, we look at Sebastian Haller, and I think his biggest problem isn't Sebastian Haller. I think his biggest problem is everything around him isn't set there for him. He's come into a scenario where everything has been built for different managers over different managers over different managers. There's no cohesiveness. There's no consistency. I mean, you look at that. Say you look at that front four. You've got Haller and Fornals, who were bought by Pellegrini. You've got Lanzini, who was bought by Bilic. You've got Bowen, who was bought by Moyes. That's three different managers just in four players. And so you look at him, and I think, so when we judge him as a player, and I look at him and I go, well, he's top goal scorer for a reason, because he is actually effective. But as Tommy said, I think he's slowly getting into his rhythm now. I think he's slowly getting into his position and finding ways. I think Moyes is more getting into that Haller groove. And I think as much, and Tommy's been in on our chats, you'll know I don't like Moyes. I can criticize him for as much as he wants. But I think one thing I like about Moyes, and this is just a general point, is that he's now he does this thing where he refuses to use someone, and then he uses them once. And if they do well, then he'll start to sort of find a way of utilizing them better, which I think is insane. But at least he's doing it with Haller now. And so hopefully by the end of this season, we'll have a definitive answer for this question as opposed to a mixed bag or anything else. And it will be, he's had a good season, but we'll see where it lies.
Not looking at the camera is freaking me out.
Hang on, I'll tell you what I'll do. Here's the problem. Let me give you a little hint behind the curtain. It's because I've got two screens, and because of the way all my USB cables are set up, I can't move it from here. So usually this is my main monitor. So I'll switch the monitors around. There we go. Hello, everyone. How are you? There you go.
Right, I neglected to give you a thumb, which Wally, extra thumb there for 4 teams, 4 managers. But so, what does he need to bring out his best, Charlie? If he doesn't have what it is around him to bring out his best, what is it that he needs?
The big difference. So the answer really is like he needs to have a team created around him, like Antonio needed to have a team created around him to put into that position. But the key difference between the two of them, in my head at least, is Antonio's the person at the end of everything. Because he can create almost by himself. He can create for himself. You just punt the ball long, Antonio can run onto it and get onto the end of it and do something with it. That's not something Haller does. We've seen him do it once or twice this season, a little bit, where he's a little smart turn and he's through or whatever. But that's not his game. The big difference between the two of them is, to me, Haller creates for other people. If you look at the time when he was at Frankfurt and he was in this fluid front three, it was really fluid. Not only did he have 15 plus goals, he had 15 plus assists. And that's not something you see from strikers too often, especially from Antonio. Antonio's never going to get that many assists in a season because that's just not the type of player he is. So when you're talking about how to get the best out of Haller, you do it by creating a system and team and players around him where he can equally create for them. And I think that's what we've seen a little bit recently in the games that he has played well. I think he's had people like Ben Rama, people like Bowen around him who will do stuff. Like I remember when, what was it, the last game before lockdown, Southampton, and I was sat next to Rebecca in that game because she didn't allow me to not stop talking about Haller. I did not stop. I feel very sorry for it now when I think about it. But he was playing these chipped through balls, Rabona through balls for other players to go and do their thing. And that's what it is with him. We look at him and we say he's not scoring enough for the amount of money he costs. You're missing the point. The point of Haller is not he's going to get on the end of absolutely everything and put it in. That's not him. What he's going to do is make everyone around him better while scoring incredible goals like he can do. That's how you get the best out of him, not just punting.
Yeah, I thought he actually played his best in the Palace game when he actually had Ben Rama and Lanzini hovering around him. I think Haller likes to play with others. I don't think he can play, as Antonio does, as an isolated forward. Antonio's like a dog who just loves to play fetch. You know, you can just launch the ball and he just go tearing after it.
Yeah,
and we'll get it a lot of the time because he's got that pace and power. But with Haller, you know, he needs people around him. There's no question about that. And it really showed in the Palace game. As soon as he had Ben Rama and Lanzini hovering around him, around the edge of the box, I thought he really came to life. And you could see he was really involved in the game then. And of course, he scored not long after as well. So I think the key is that he's never isolated, that there's never 20 and 30 yards between him and the other forwards. You know, they've got to be close to him. It's got to be a kind of symbiotic relationship, you know, up there with the other forwards. And I think he can thrive in that environment. And if he's going to be our forward going forward, there is no other way. Moyes is going to have to get players up around him. And if that means Ben Rama and Lanzini play, he'll play Ben Rama and Lanzini.
Yeah.
So Mark, I think these, unless you're in complete disagreement with these guys, which you're welcome to be in disagreement with them, let me give you a slightly different angle to maybe help you get some points because they've made a lot of points that have scored already. Yeah. So if you don't want to answer it the way that it was originally constructed, do you think we have the tools available currently to make to bring out his best? Or is that something that we got to go and get?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I actually think we do. I think you can play Antonio with Haller and it'll work. I think you can do that. They're very different players. Antonio is the kind of player who's going to run around, be a pest, be a nuisance. He'll run onto the ball. Haller can flick onto him or pass him through and let Antonio run through. That's the kind of player that Haller is. That's what he wants to do. Is Chicharito still around? Did he retire? Bring him back because that's like the perfect guy to have play with Haller. So I do think that we have the tools available, and it's such a shame that Haller gets such a shitty rap because of his contract and the expectations that we had bringing him, and there's nothing he can do because he's in a system that isn't working, that isn't made to work for him. But I think the tools are there, and we always give Moyes shit for being so stubborn and not wanting to change anything, but I feel like he's gotten a little bit better. And if he really wants to maximize this team, I think he just has to do just one little thing and just play Antonio with Allaire. Just one game. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens with the two of them playing together.
Because I'll tell you what, that's a good point, because I'll tell you what, it would be an interesting experiment to have Allaire as a number 9 and to have Antonio play just behind him as a number 10, given how good Antonio's hold-up play is. And he does have good feet, actually, Antonio, with the ball at his feet. He can roll defenders if they get too close. It's very difficult to get the ball off him, and he can pass the ball off. So if he was playing, it would be an interesting experiment to see those two together, and it has the potential actually to be
I'm telling you, I think I have high expectations for this team, and I said it on Twitter. I might have had a little bit too much to drink, but I said I think the team's going to be in the top 3 in 30 days.
You definitely had so much.
Yeah, you've been going wild on the drink today, man.
I'm telling you, the schedule really isn't that bad. There's some tough games in there, but I think they could win a bunch of them, and they've been scoring. They haven't gotten I guess they've gotten scored on quite a bit, but the team just looks good. I don't know why, they just do.
And I'll tell you what, don't be one bit surprised if we go and get something at Chelsea, because
we should. I mean, there is no match over that Christmas schedule that we should be scared of.
That's what I'm saying.
No, and
we shouldn't be scared of any, but they're fairly easy. I mean, if you were going to pick, a few games, you wouldn't mind picking those ones. I mean, they're all. You should be in and around.
Yeah, and against Chelsea, much like Tottenham, we tend to turn up. We tend to actually play very well against Chelsea. Now, whether we win, lose, or draw, we do tend to give them a real game of it. Even that game where Hazard scored that wonder goal and we got beaten, we matched Chelsea in that game. Obviously we won there with that Cresswell goal, 1-0 as well, and obviously the Yarmolenko late winner gloriously last season. So, we turn up against Chelsea, and we always seem to give them a real game of it. And they're under pressure. They've lost, is it 3 games on the bounce? They're feeling. Yeah, and they're feeling the pressure. Like Chelsea will be in their heads, will feel like they have to win this game, and you don't know how teams will carry that pressure.
So let me. I need to get back to the questions that I wrote. Let's keep this game under control.
No, I refuse. Let's talk about the
throwing thumbs out all over the place about Chelsea games, but I think you've already answered it, Mark. But I'm coming to you because you haven't gone first yet. So who starts when Antonio comes back?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's going to be Antonio. I'm sorry. I don't mean unfortunately. It's going to be Antonio just because he's the player who fits Moyes' system. That's who Moyes likes. That's who Moyes wants to play. And Moyes isn't going to deviate from that. So Antonio is going to get to start. But again, I wish Moyes would just take a step back and see what can I do to maximize Allaire and say, let's try to play Allaire with Antonio and go with that. But he won't do that. That's not what he does. Antonio gets to start.
Charlie, you're looking under the camera now.
Thank you. It's because the camera can't be the screen, John. I don't want to explain technology to you, but the camera has to be either on top or the side or below. It can't be the screen. I don't live in Tokyo. I can't do that sort of stuff. The thing is, the first time Antonio got injured, it was obvious Antonio was going straight back in. Now, it shouldn't have been, because the first time someone got injured who was doing very well, a la Fredericks, and then Moyes brought someone else in, he actually kept Fredericks out in favour of the other person who did relatively well when they came in. But this is a different kettle of fish. This is Mikel Antonio, the guy who makes David Moyes' system work, basically. So the first time, I think it was obvious. I think Mikel Antonio was coming straight back in because he gets the goals. Whereas now, I think the second injury, I think it would probably give David Moyes concern enough to where he's not going to lob him straight back in. In a situation where Mikel Antonio is the wrong side of 30, he's injury prone as all hell, you lob him in, he gets injured again, and he's gone for the rest of the season. You're up poop creek without a paddle, as it were. I think you look at it and you say, we haven't got that much money in January to spend. Can we afford to lose such a key player like that? I don't think you can. I think Haller should start. I think Haller is. I think you're starting to see the benefits when you put certain people around him. I think you keep that, and you have Antonio for now as an impact sub until you're fully sure he has calves again or whatever the hell is wrong with him. Once you're there, then sure, start him in a game, and that will almost certainly happen. And again, as Mark has just said, Moyes has a system. He will basically put Antonio back in, really. But I think it'd be stupid. I think it's foolish to do it. I think it's way too early if you put him back in. Whenever he comes back, it's too early. Introduce him slowly, because you lob him at him, he's just going to get another injury, and it's going to be a bad time for everyone.
Tommy.
I think Antonio, given his injury history, his hamstrings are made of spaghetti. And I think also with Antonio, apart from the fact that you need to ease him in for fitness reasons to make sure, his hamstrings are okay and have strengthened again. I also happen to think that Antonio is a bit of a slow burner. It's like he needs a run-up. You know what I mean? Antonio, for me, isn't a player who can be out for a few games and then come back in and be great. I think he needs a run of games to kind of build himself up to full form, as it were. His match sharpness won't be there. His match fitness won't quite be there. So, again, I think it would actually be foolish to throw him back in, even if he's 100% fit this time. I think you introduce him from the bench initially, and let him get that match sharpness back. Because I think, we may waste some games where if you just throw him back in, where for the first 2 or 3 games where he's actually not very good because he's just rusty. He's just one of those players you can't just chuck back in and who'll be great right away, and he won't pick up where he left off, Antonio. So I think it would be better to continue to start Haller, bring Antonio off the bench, and then if and when he rediscovers his kind of match sharpness and his form, then obviously you've got a decision to make. Okay, now who do I start? But initially, I wouldn't just throw him back in from the start. No.
Also, let's be real. Like, if you're an opponent, you're Lampard, you're whoever we're going to come up against, right? Hasenhüttl against Southampton or whatever, which, by the way, John, that's the game you should be scared about, Southampton. I'm telling you now, remember this, we're going to get blapped. Anyway, if you're one of the opponent's managers and you see Haller start, but importantly, you see Antonio on the bench, what are you more scared of? Antonio coming off the bench or Haller coming off the bench? Because Antonio, when he first comes back, won't last 70. He won't last 90 minutes. He'll last 70, 60. I mean, there's been some games this year where he's looked like he's been blowing out of his arse after about 10. Like, so are you going to look at it and go, Haller's coming off the bench? Okay. Or are you going to be going, Antonio's coming off the bench? Okay. What do you do with that? That's the difference, I think, here. And that's the difference. Because again, as Mark said, Moyes is stubborn. He will stick to one up top. As much as I do agree with Tommy, actually, and I think we should try 2 up front with them both, some form of that system. I think that would be super interesting. But realistically, it will only be one. So,
We buying a striker in January? Who hasn't gone first in a while? Tommy, we buying a striker in January?
I think you could put money on it, to be honest. We have to. We need another striker. I'm sure Moyes is very aware of that. Like Antonio has spoken already, don't want to flog a dead horse here, but he will spend a certain portion of the season injured, nursing his hamstrings. So that leaves Haller. And if, God forbid, we should lose both, at the moment you would have to say he would either just have to throw Yarmolenko up there or would have to move Bowen up there and play someone else out on the right, either say, a Lanzini or a Yarmolenko on the right. That's not ideal. We need Bowen out on the right. It's where he's at his best. And Yarmolenko, while he can play up top and does so for the Ukraine, I think we just need a little bit more quality up there. He's finishing probably wouldn't be great. So I think it's almost certain that Moyes will have earmarked a striker who can come in and do a job, but perhaps not necessarily just when 2 people are injured. I mean, the talk obviously is about Josh King. I think that is still the most likely. But I think Moyes will see Josh King as someone who can potentially do a job regularly from the bench. He brings a different kind of dimension and a different way of playing. And I think actually what we really need, which would be helpful to have on the bench, is a striker who can run between the lines, who can make those runs in behind, between the centre backs or between the full back and centre back, who you can play through on goal, and who, unlike say Fornells or Bowen, won't get caught. And King has a bit of pace about him. If King gets through one-on-one with the keeper, he will show you a clean set of heels. And he's a very good finisher. So I think we actually need a striker like King who can just do something a little different and make those runs in behind. So I think it's basically a certainty that we're going to bring in a striker in January, most likely Josh King.
Mark.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. And we just spent the entire last question talking about it. Michael Antonio can't stay healthy. He's injured every goddamn day. It's something new. So you can't rely on Allaire. I don't even know who else there is after him. But you need to get depth there because you can't rely on Antonio staying healthy. So we're going to get a striker. Not only that, I think it's fairly clear that Moyes doesn't really want Allaire to be the second guy. He might want him to be the third guy. Moyes doesn't want Allaire. It's not his guy. So I think we're definitely going to be buying a striker. I read about a few strikers who might be available. King for one, guy from I think Real Madrid, Diaz. I don't know too much about him. I also read, and people might get pissed off, Ali from Tottenham. Just saying. But so there's guys available who can afford. I mean, we'll see, but yeah, I think he's definitely going to be targeting a striker. Kind of doesn't really have a choice.
Charlie.
No, I mean, it's two questions, right? There's are we and should we? Like, should
yes
we?
And yes.
Should we is yes is the answer, obviously, as Tommy just said. Like, we should. I mean, my concern, I think Moyes made a big hubbub about this idea of a small squad, which is great and all if everyone is fit. Like, if you look at the Leicester title-winning season, I think players who played over like 500 minutes or whatever, there was only like 14, 15 of them. That's insane. That's a tiny, tiny squad. And their squad was tiny. They'd had no depth in that team. Riyad Mahrez got injured and flipping Mark Albright was coming on. You know what I mean? Like,
I think they used about 18 players all season.
Yeah, it was insane. It really was an insane thing. And that's fine if you can do that. Now, we're West Ham United. We obviously get a lot more injuries than they did that season. Just already this season, we've had more than we have, right? And I think if we were... One of the things he said was like, "Oh, I love the idea of bringing youth players into that." I don't know if that's true, Moyes. I mean, because you're lobbing Fredericks on the bench instead of Johnson. Sorry, Wally, I don't mean that. I promise. You're lobbing, and then when we've had only one striker, we've not had a striker on the bench, let alone Yarmolenko or something like that. We literally haven't had anyone, not even a youth player. So if we had a youth player who was ready to come in, then I would sit here and maybe I would ponder it for a second and go, let's wait until the summer. We'll figure it out. Then we'll use the youth player, give him some time to grow and develop. But we don't even have that. So should we buy one? Yes, we should. It should be Josh King. That's the one David Moyes wants. Go and buy Josh King. He's going to be available at a cheaper price than usual, David Sullivan. Something you should love. Go and get him. Will we? I don't think we will. I don't think the money's there. I think the excuse of having Ben Rama's money coming over the horizon, we're about to spend 20 whatever million. I think the excuses are all there for it. Moyes saying he doesn't like a big squad. Mikel Antonio coming back and getting a new contract. I think all of the excuses are there to where we don't go out and get one. I think if we're likely to go and get someone, I don't think it'll be a striker.
I think Moyes actually, if the money isn't there to go get a striker, I think Moyes has an out. I think it would actually be a very, very popular move among the fan base if he was to bring Odebeku into the first team squad and put him on the bench instead. I think the fans would actually really like that.
I agree.
It would be the right thing to do or not. I'm not saying it might necessarily be the right thing to do, but it would give him an out. If he was to say, right, we're not signing a striker, but that's because I want to give Odebeku a chance in the first team, and I want to put him on the bench, and he'll get some minutes. I think that would keep the fan base happy, actually. I think it would be a popular thing to do.
I think it would, but I think he would have done that already if he'd had that opportunity, because we've had one striker for a while and the bench hasn't had one. And B, I think if he was saying that, I don't believe him for the life of me. So sometimes David Moyes says stuff and I believe him. Sometimes he says stuff and I'm like, you have to say this because you have no choice in the matter. Be it because someone upstairs is telling you to do it, or because you've rocked up and go, oh, I like the red ball model, and then you sign Craig Dawson, who's 30 years old on loan from Watford. Go away, David Moyes, you liar. Like, he can say it if he wants, but I don't believe it for the life of me.
Yeah, but I think Odubeko was out injured for a while too.
That is true. That's true.
We'll revisit the transfer market later, but let's get into the final question of the first half, and that is, what is the best Christmas-related food and why? Mark.
I'm Jewish. Fuck off.
Great answer. That's a great answer.
So aside from that, my wife is Christmas. So
She is Christmas, is she?
she's Christmas. So her family cooks a fat ham every year for Christmas, and they cook it in some like maple syrup like bisque thing. I don't know, but it's fucking amazing, and I probably eat about like a pound of it every Christmas.
I'm going to give you a thumbs up and also tell you you're the worst Jewish person ever
Yeah.
for saying that a ham is the best Christmas food.
I was going to say,
I keep kosher.
because I thought my answer was going to be the most opposite of I'm Jewish possible, because the answer is clearly pigs in blankets. Let's be real about it. The answer is pigs in blankets. There's a lot of great Christmas food, but it's both sausages and bacon, one wrapped around the other. Also, it's the only food I can think of in which you can describe it as wrapped like a Christmas present, because it's wrapped. It's just a banger. Pigs in blankets all day. But I thought that was the least Jewish thing I could have said after what Mark said, and then you just rolled up and went, but actually ham, like, which was just a beautiful. That was beautiful.
Tommy, you're the only one left.
Okay, mine is actually a family recipe. It's been in my family a long time, and thankfully my mum had it handed down to her from her mum, and so forth on and so forth. But it's our family recipe stuffing, which is absolutely amazing. And if you get stuffing like just bang on, like get it really right, stuffing can be absolutely amazing. And you go in with the ham and the turkey, and it can be just amazing. So, and our family recipe stuffing is absolutely beautiful. So that's that's an absolute banger for me every Christmas day.
I would agree. Stuffing. We had a Thanksgiving recently, and the stuffing on that it's the thing that we're still talking about is how good the stuffing was compared to anything else. Like, turkey, yeah, it's fine, but the stuffing really made the whole day. Wally, what are you having for Christmas this year? What's your favorite food?
Well, I'll tell you what. If you're in the Philadelphia area, what you do at this time of year is you go to Wawa and you get the turkey gobbler. It has the whole meal in it complete. It's got the turkey, it's got the mashed potatoes, the gravy, the cranberries, and it's wonderful, and it costs like $5. It's fantastic. My kids would come home from university. Before they would come and visit us, they would go to Wawa and get their turkey gobblers at this time of year. So
you're a connoisseur of fine dining, Wally. How's everybody doing?
All right. Well, we have a close match here. We got Tommy and Charlie tied with 13, and unfortunately Mark behind with 10. So
what a shit.
He's in striking distance too.
Yeah.
That was a good effort there, Mark. I'm going to boot you into the back room. Feel free to hang out in the green room or go raise hell in the chat. But thank you for taking part.
Whole lot of hell in the chat, let me tell you.
Yeah, go get them. Anyway, we'll get into let's get into the final few rounds here. Wally, I'm going to stick you back there as well. You and Mark can have fun and talk about Ryan Fredericks. And the next question is, give me your best argument why David Moyes deserves a new contract. And I really want to hear this from Charlie first.
We all do.
Right. David Moyes, what a man, what a gentleman, what a manager. He has gotten Everton to one final, something we haven't got to since then. No, okay, here's the long and short of it is, and it's an argument that I hate it when it gets thrown at me because it's just true, but who else are we going to get? Who bloody else are we actually going to get? Like, realistically, I think there's options, right? I think you could just throw money at someone and hope it works out like we have done in the past, not naming any names, Manuel. But realistically, I don't think our owners are anywhere near intelligent enough to go and do what they need to do, which is actually scout for someone in like Germany or wherever. Just go and find someone who's smart, who's off the radar, who you could pay half the amount of price for. Outside of that, because that's me still managing to diss David Moyes, let's give him some credit. Let's try it. I'm going to hate it, but I'm going to do it. I think he's done a very good job since lockdown. I think at this stage, I look at it and I think, okay, not only have you got results when you shouldn't have, and there's been a couple of games this season, notably like Sheffield United, for example, where I was like, we were so lucky to get a win there, right? I think not only that, he's shown willingness to change every so often. I would have put him as one of the most stubborn people in the world, and he still is, to be fair. I'm still not going to call him loosey-goosey for any stretch of the imagination, but I do think, like with the Haller thing, he came in and he's gone, okay, let's change it around a little bit. Let's change the formation a little bit here. Let's try and get him in different positions. Let's just pump it like we were to Antonio, you know? Same with Fornals, for example. Fornals has been taking up interesting positions more centrally. Now, he's still starting out wide, but he's drifting into that position. There's some interesting things going on there. Would I give him... I can't say that because this isn't the question. If hang on, I've got this. Realistically, if we get top 10, which we probably will, because we've had such a strong start to the season, which again, he deserves huge respect for, then he should get a new contract. Because what that does, I mean, it sort of kicks, I don't like it because it sort of kicks the ball. Okay, I'm answering the next question. If we finish well, then he deserves a new contract because he's shown that he's done it. Because not only has he done it by beating teams that are better than us, not only has he done that by building a stronger base, which we haven't had for a long time, he's done it by also adapting and showing, and sometimes, if not verbally, through his actions, admitting that he was wrong occasionally and that he should have like maybe changed it and not just put Haller in Antonio's position, for example. That's the best you're going to get out of me, John. I'm sorry.
I know that was painful for you, so I appreciate the answer. Tommy, what's your best argument? Why should we give him a new contract?
First of all, Charlie, I just love you. You tried so hard. Bless your little heart. You tried so hard to make a case for him, and I could see it was just such a strain for you.
It's painful.
You look like you need to lie down. Yeah, I don't. For me, the question that Charlie approached, which is correct actually, but the question of who else could we get, I think, is a moot point at this stage. I think David Moyes deserves the contract now. I'm not sure what exactly you expect from him, you know, to prove himself, to show that the team are headed in the right direction. There's no question that we are. You know, if you look at where we are as a side now compared to when he took over, when we were, let's not forget, we were in absolute shambles. And we looked like almost dead certs to go down. And the way he's turned things around, I think, is absolutely commendable. No, it's unexpected. I have to say, I did not expect this. I suspected he might be sacked by Christmas, to be completely honest. So he surprised me in the best possible way. But the things he's done, I mean, we don't talk really about injury crisis anymore. Every season, it was just the same thing. Oh, we've got 10 players out. We've got 8 players missing. You look at the fitness and the conditioning of the players now. I mean, it's just worlds apart. We were conceding goals left, right, and centre. We were very easy to score on. Now we're actually very difficult to score against. We're incredibly solid at the back. All of the players know their jobs. They understand the system he's got them in. It's very cohesive. And, you know, not so long ago, a lot of teams would have seen us as a bit of a soft touch. teams like Man City would rock up and think, yeah, we're going to knock 5 past this lot today. Not anymore, boys. Not anymore. Those days are gone. I think now, under David Moyes, we're actually quite a horrible little bastard of a team to play against. And I don't think it's an enjoyable experience for anyone. I think we have a little bit of brutishness about us now, which I love, frankly. We're a more physical side. We don't get mucked about. We don't lay down for anybody. And given the amount of points that we have at this stage of the season, when you look as well at the teams that we've played, I mean, we've had a very difficult first half of the season, it has to be said. And for us to be where we are on the points tally that we've got right now, if you were unsure about David Moyes going into this season, you have to ask yourself now, if you're not giving him a contract, willing to give him a contract now, what is it exactly that you want him to do before you'd be willing to say, okay, you have earned the right to be backed? So I think he should get a contract, and I think it would be purely on merit.
So I think that's really, what is it exactly you want him to do, Charlie? So the next question is, what does he need to do? Sorry, give me your best argument for why Moyes doesn't deserve a new contract, but perhaps it's also framed within the bounds of what is it that he needs to do in order to take your loyalty there.
Do you want me to go first or Tommy?
I normally would let Tommy go first, but he's directly called you out, so we're going to go with Charlie first.
Hello. Right.
Charlie?
This is what he needs. To be a good manager for 5 seconds, maybe. The guy, right, he is so infuriating. We've done this, right? He's built an okay side, and then he's done nothing else because he can't change it because he's not good. Like, there are so many options out there. Even when we signed him, the only reason we signed him is because no one else bloody wanted him, and they were forced into a corner when they had to get him in the first place because they let him go the first time, which, by the way, was the second worst managerial win percentage-wise in West Ham history. And yet everyone in the media, for some reason, went, he was mistreated. He saved them. No, Marko Arnautovic saved us, bruv. He did the same thing with Antonio now, which he did with Arnautovic, which was just pump it long at him and hope he does some magic. This is the problem with David Moyes. Although we have done well, and I think he deserves respect for doing that, we've done it shockingly. There were 3 or 4 games in a row recently. Fulham, who were the teams around that game? Fulham, Sheffield United, and there was another one where I was like, we have got Villa, we have got away with murder. We were bad, actively bad. We were getting outplayed by teams who were in the relegation zone, and we just happened to, like, magic seemed to happen. And it's flipping water off a duck's back. Like, the realistic stuff with Moyes, my biggest problem with him, and it's not even the defensive football, because I actually, as much as in my head, and I know people mock the West Ham way and all that shit. As much as in my head, I'm like, do you know what? I prefer an attacking manager. I prefer someone who goes and gets it. I don't mind defensive football when we need to do it. And that's the thing, when we need to do it. So when we face the big teams, it makes sense because that's what Moyes sets up for. The problem is he does that for bloody everyone. We go against League One sides in the Cup, and guess what? He sets up defensively and goes on a counter-attack. I'm like, bro, where have you got any sense of adventure in you, sir? Have you got any sense of just go and get them attitude, right? And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. His substitutions are terrible. The thing about, like, him working under the owners, I'm not going to even claim that's not true, because I think he does work on the owners, but that's because the man has no spine. The man has zero spine. First of all, it was Eze who was his number 1 target. Then it was flipping Tarkowski who was his number 1 target. Then it was flipping Josh King. Josh King is basically desperate to come to us, and they still went Benrahma. He has no sway. He is lucky as F that he just sets up so defensively that we can't get beat because he stuffs the pack. He brings on defenders when we're losing. What more? It's like, I just want him to do something that's not like. I think it's right. If he is the problem with my position currently is that if we end the end of the season, and this is just being honest for a second, if we get to the end of the season and we're in a fairly decent position, top half or anything, I can't complain about him getting a new contract, because you look at it and you go, fair play, you've done what you needed to do. The sad fact of the matter is, is we've got a manager right now, not a single other team in the flipping league would take. None of them. None of them.
I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that.
Name them.
For West Brom, if he was around,
they took the better version.
I mean, yeah, they probably took the more predictable, definitely stay up version. I don't think they were going to. If he was floating around out there, he would have been in contention for a job like that after what he's done with us.
At least Sam Allardyce changed his tactics depending on what players he had on the pitch and didn't play people considerably out of position. At least the last season he was with us, he went, let's try something different. Let's go attacking. Let's do a diamond formation. Let's go wild. Carl Jenkinson, legend. Let's go mad. Like, come on.
He also was very restrained by our owners, and he was good at sticking within a budget. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get a manager that is going to be above the owners with this club. But anyway,
let me just answer that quickly. And I don't even want thumbs. I just want to say this, right? I don't even want thumbs. This is just something I care about. God damn it. Sam Allardyce had full reign for transfers. That was why they got rid of him. They didn't care about anything else. They just didn't like the fact he had control over transfers, something David Moyes doesn't do. Manuel Pellegrini had more control over transfers. There are people out there that can do it. And I think we sort of kid ourselves by looking at it. We're like a spurned person who's just like, no one's ever going to want me. It's like, I don't disagree. No one's ever going to want to work under our owners. But there are people out there who could actually do that. The problem is the idiots above David Moyes more than it is David Moyes. If we're being honest, he's just a symptom of the problem. It's the people above him that are the actual issue of the club. But we've got to wait till 2023. I would just rather be entertained between now and then than fucking whatever.
I still think we have middling owners. He was also the same person that wrote the Mauro Zarate showed up as a present from David Sullivan. So that's just the ownership that we have. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it is. Any manager we get is going to have to deal with that, in my perspective. Yeah. Tommy, why does he not deserve a new contract?
I just adore how Charlie just came alive on that second part of that question. It was a joyous thing. And I feel very lucky that I was here to witness it live. Just the passion was amazing, Charlie.
Misplaced, incorrect passion. You love to see it. You really do.
It was fabulous. Okay, I could get back into everything Charlie was saying there and make my arguments, but we're not here for that. I have to respect the format and answer the question. So I think if I was trying to come up with the reasons we shouldn't give him a new contract is, there may be an element to our start to the season of, one swallow does not a summer make. We are still less than halfway through the season. So we could be maybe jumping the gun a little bit by giving him a contract now, because as we know, we've seen many, many times in many seasons, not just with ourselves, but with other teams, that the wheels can come off in the second half of the season. So I think there is a strong case to be made for us to just keep our powder dry. We're not in any danger of losing him. I don't believe, as Charlie says, I don't think the clubs are going to be lining up to try and steal David Moyes from us. And equally, I think David Moyes is very happy in the job, and he's in the job that he wants to be in. And I think if it came down to it, he would wait until the end of the season before kind of signing an extended contract. And there is a genuine case to be made for, let's just keep our powder dry. Everything's going well. Let's just keep it going. And if our first half of the season turns into a full season where we are in and about the Europa League spots, then we can give him a contract at the end of the season, because there's no real downside as such to doing that. So that would be the reason I would think of where you would wait.
That makes sense. It's rational. It's logical.
Can I just ask both of you? And this is
a lack of passion, by the way.
Yeah. Now that we're not performing, Charlie wants an honest answer.
I want an honest answer. No, genuinely, right? Because I like asking this question. Tommy's probably seen me ask it in the live chat of like watching stuff as well. But like, if/when would you give David Moyes a contract? I assume you both would. But when would you do it? Because I guess this is another thing I got in trouble on Hammers Chat. That we did a video where several people asked if they would give him, and I said no. But I'm interested in both your answers. When, if you were to, would you give him a new contract if you're in charge of the club?
Okay, well, I wouldn't wait until it runs out. I wouldn't wait until the end of the season. I think I would start looking at it in the early period of the second half of the season. I think if we keep this going, and if we've played, let's say, 25 games or something like that, let's say we've still got 10 games to go, and we're still going really, really well, having a strong season, then I would say, okay, we're going to get him signed up now, because I just wouldn't quite be willing to risk his contract running down, because I think you may feel a little too safe. You might think,
Sure.
right, we're not losing him. He's not going to go anywhere. But it's hard to know, like, what with chairmen of other clubs, when they're looking at West Ham and looking at the job Moyes is doing, you're almost guaranteed there will be somewhere that will be thinking, you know what, I think we absolutely need a bit of this, and who will be very impressed with how he's turned us around. And I think perhaps if a club like Celtic at the end of the season were just to decide to ditch Neil Lennon and come calling for Moyes, I think that would be a very difficult job for him to turn down, for obvious reasons. And I think if we leave it right until the end of the season, we might find that we actually regret it, and it gets taken out of our hands, and he ends up at Celtic. So I wouldn't wait till the end of the season. I don't think I'd do it quite now. I would fall between two stools, as it were, and give it maybe about 10 games to go in the season. I think I would say, okay, now I've seen enough. Let's get him signed up on a 2 or 3 year deal, whatever it is.
Yeah, I got the same answer really, Tommy, but for different reasons. For me, it's not about him; it's about the players, and I think it's about the players you have and the players that you want to go and sign. And so the players that you have, players like Declan Rice, we want to make sure that they know that he's going to be around the next few years, and that's who they want to play under, and he really enjoys playing under him. Let's make sure that he knows that his future is there, and that gets him on board at West Ham quicker than Chelsea can start tapping him up. I'm sure they're already doing it. And then any future recruits that we have, they need to come in and be aware of who the manager is going into that summer recruitment period as well. So if we get all that squared away a few weeks before the transfer windows opens up, it allows his team to go and do the right recruitment that they need to do and do the right planning and put the club ahead. We've been so reactive for so long, and I just want a bit of stability, and I think he's doing a good enough job for me to keep him around. Like you said, I mean, we've got to see what the next few weeks holds, but if it carries on the way it's been going, then there's no reason not to at least renew him or extend it coming end of February, March, end of March maybe.
Yeah, there's also the danger of feeling like the grass is greener on the other side. Charlie doesn't maybe like him for various reasons, but whatever you think of him, Charlie, he's getting the results by hook or by crook. And we're in the table in a very nice position. We've had some great results, really great results. And I think if you're going to get too hung up on it and thinking, I know a manager that I like more, like I say, there's no guarantee. We could get rid of Moyes and then find that manager that you really liked actually is just not a good fit for the club, and all of a sudden we're kind of back to square one, looking horrible and losing games we shouldn't be losing. And so I think you need to be careful on that stuff.
I and for what it's worth, I do agree. I think there are lots of managers, not every manager I prefer David Moyes, but realistically, I do think you are right. I think when I look at him getting results by hook or by crook, I look at it and think, well, inevitably you return back to form. If you're being lucky, that luck will run out eventually. And I would say we have been lucky in quite a few games this season, but I think surprisingly, I think my answer is much along the same lines yours is. When I did that video on Hammers Chat, I did say wait until the end of the season. And that's because for the exact same reason you were saying, in that it's rosy now, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay rosy. We should wait until we know exactly how the season plays out. But as you were talking there and you were saying 25 games or whatever, I started to think, yeah, maybe actually. And I think partly that is also down to just bargaining position. If you get to the end of the season and he's kept you in an incredible position, he's in an insanely strong position to not debate, what's the word I'm looking for, to bargain from, basically. Like, he would be in such, whereas if you do it slightly earlier, then it does give you that sort of, it puts you in a strong position and allows you to do it. I think you're both correct. For what it's worth,
Yeah.
I do
And of course, you know, and as well, it's like whenever you're trying to analyze anything, you know, it's about sample size. So, you know, I think 25 games or so would be a much better sample size.
Yeah,
where we could be a little more certain about things.
that's fair.
I knew you guys could keep it going until I got back. Let's carry on with the questions.
You could leave, John, for 2 hours, and me and Charlie would still be here talking West Ham after 2 hours. No problem whatsoever.
Oh, I know. As long as you guys can thumb each other, it'll be fine. So if Moyes does get money to spend in January, where would he target, or where should he target, and why? And Tommy, I'll come to you.
Okay, well, I mean, we've kind of covered the striker position. I think we're already in agreement, me and Charlie. I think we've got to get a decent backup striker in. So I don't want to flog a dead horse on that one. I also think we really need to be looking at a left back, because I still think Cresswell as a left back isn't great. And I would hope that we're not just going to be spending the rest of eternity, if everyone's fit, just playing with wing backs all the time. Cresswell's also not getting any younger, and I think we've really got to start thinking about his replacement. So I'd like to see us bring someone in there. I'd have to see, we've been linked with some guy from Barcelona that was highly rated that they signed, who just isn't getting any game time. It looks like we might be able to get a loan deal for him. His name escapes me. So I was happy to see that. We definitely need that. I suppose one of the big ones for me is that we've got to get some midfield cover. You know, if we lose Rice or Souček right now for any kind of extended period of time, I think we're really banging trouble. I don't think we have anybody that can just step in and do a job until whichever one of them is injured returns. So for me, that would be those would be the three kind of positions I'll be looking at. But I think that central midfield position and the striker position are the ones where we really need to focus our attention, because we are so light there, and it could derail a season. You know, if just the wrong person is injured at the wrong time for a long period of time, if we don't have adequate cover up front and in that central midfield area, you know, it could just put all of our good work so far this season to complete waste. And I really don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, because if Haller went down now, Antonio's already out. What a shit show that would be. Charlie, where are you spending the money?
I mean, he answered the question where he's going to look at Slavia Prague, innit? Let's be real. He's going to look like, type in Slavia Prague Wikipedia, he'll click on it, scroll through the list, see which one he likes, see which goalkeeper it is. There you go. Yeah, I think Tommy's midfield thing is my main worry, and my biggest concern is Declan Rice, because if we lose him, then not only is it that forces someone to play there who shouldn't be playing there, because we do not have a second defensive midfielder. We can make this argument about Souček being a defensive midfielder. My man's in the box almost more than Sebastian Haller is. And we can make the argument that maybe Mark Noble could play there, or even Snodgrass could play there. But this is all ifs, ands, or buts. These aren't like someone who's tailor-made for that role. We can say whatever we want about Sanchez. At least he was a guy who played that role. And the bigger problem with Declan Rice is we are going to lose him. He's going at some point. How long do we wait? How long do we wait until we go, actually, we need to find someone who can step in when Declan Rice inevitably goes to City, Chelsea, or United? Because it's going to happen. My gut says, and actually I would also sell him this summer, but my gut says it happens after the Euros. Well, realistically, if you're an opposition club, you should buy him before the Euros, before his price rockets up. But we can't sit here and build around a guy who's definitely leaving. We need to look at it. And now the interesting thing is, who do you buy in that position? You can't buy a young player who's going to grow into it because Declan Rice is there and all this other stuff. Maybe you go, in my head, I said this on another show the other day, Daley Blind. Oh, I want Daley Blind just because I love Daley Blind, right? But we need someone in that role. Outside of that, we don't really have that much depth. We have people, and some of them are very capable. Yarmolenko is an incredible bench player to have, but man's injury prone AF. You know what I mean? Like, he's injured more than Antonio is, which is impressive. And I think that's the problem. But realistically, if you're buying positions, the place you have to look at is just striker. It's just striker. We have two, and one of them doesn't fit the mold of David Moyes' tactics. The fact that that's been allowed to happen is insane. And to Moyes' credit, the fact he's managed to get us to where he has, with that being the case, is equally insane. Like, fair play, because it's just crazy. But if we're going to lose Rice, and the sooner we solve that problem, the better. Outside of that, left back is the obvious place, and let's be real.
Oh,
I think they'll sign Declan Rice's replacement, partly with the money they get for Declan Rice. I mean, I think they'll leave it that long. I think they'll just replace him with the money they get for him.
A swap deal for Kante and some cash.
No, I'd take that all day. Get him in. Let's go. What a boy. Running about, endless engine. It's like Mark Noble 10 years ago. Let's go.
Oh, last question 9. All right. If the following players were a pizza topping, what would they be? And we're going to start with Charlie, and it will be, the first player is Mark Noble.
Mark Noble as a pizza topping. It's the obvious one. He's a cheese, isn't he? He's a cheese, but he's probably on the more mature side of a cheese. Do you know what I mean? Because I personally, I like a lighter cheese. Do you know? But a stronger cheddar. You know what I mean? Because I like a lighter cheese. I can't lie to you. I'm a bit of a chicken when it comes to cheeses. The blue cheeses, these fancy Stiltons, all this fancy stuff. None of that. Just I like a lighter one. Someone who can dribble. Someone who can do a bit of fancy stuff. But realistically, he's a mature cheese. He's something that connoisseurs like. But your general person's maybe going, that's a bit too much for me. I'll just stick to my I like cathedral cheddar or whatever, you know what I mean?
Cathedral cheddar. Tommy.
Okay, for Mark Noble, I'm going to say pepperoni. Because he's a little bit spicy. You know, he's not averse to going in 2-footed on occasion. He does like a yellow card. He does like cleaning a player out. So it's a little bit spicy. And you know, he's very familiar, very dependable, and everyone likes him. So he's pepperoni to me.
That's a good answer, Tommy. That's a good answer. Sebastian Haller, Tommy.
Okay, for Haller, I went with pineapple.
Cool.
He's not to everyone's taste, right? Some people absolutely love him and think he should absolutely be on there. And other people think he's absolutely rank and should never be on there. And so that he's very pineapple to me.
That's a good one. I've got a lot of online debates about both of those. Charlie?
Yeah, the worst thing is it's such a good one. I also had that answer. He's pineapple. And I'll tell you why. Because the internet is wrong. He should be on there. And that's why he should be on there. But if not to just copy Tommy's answer, because I did actually have that written down. Sebastian Haller is... Wait for it. I'll get there.
Olives.
It's going to be the worst topping ever. Look at him.
Hang on. It's coming. It's coming to me. Sebastian Haller is he's a tomato because he's the thing you build the rest of the pizza around.
Ooh, he saves himself.
There you go.
He saves himself.
That was it was a stretch because I don't even think tomatoes are a topping. If we're being honest, I think all pizzas have a tomato in it. But
yeah, Charlie, you never disappoint. Fabianski, Charlie.
He's a spicy jalapeno, right? Because when you get it, you get all hyped. You're excited. You take a bite. Oh, this is tasty. This is great. Bit down the line, it's going to screw you over. You're going to regret it. You're going to be like, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have got this. I should have got something better, something more mild. You know what I mean? Something younger potentially. So I would say he's like a spicy jalapeno.
Yeah, it always pays you back the next day. Tommy.
Exactly.
Yeah, for Fabianski, I went with ham. The reason being is that when all the other bits are on there, you know, all your fancy bits, you don't really notice the ham. When the pizza is really good, you don't really notice the ham. But when your pizza is bare, the ham will save it. And then you'll appreciate the ham for what it really is. Because when you really need to save your pizza, bang some ham on there, and it saves the day. and then you think, actually, you know what? Maybe I just don't appreciate that ham enough.
Oh my God, I wish Tim was on this show. Right, last one of the night, and Tommy, you're first, and that is Souček.
Okay, what have I got? Okay, I've gone with cheese for Souček. The reason being is that it's everywhere. So no matter where you look on the pizza, whether it's up top or whether you look down the bottom or either the sides, wherever you will look, it's there. It's everywhere. Souček is the cheese because he is everywhere. He gets around no matter where. It's dependable, no gaps, nothing. He's the cheese.
No gaps. I'm giving a thumbs up for no gaps. Charlie, close out.
I tell you what, this is why me and Tommy could talk all night. I wrote the exact words, cheese, because he gets everywhere. Those are the exact words I wrote down. I love this, Tommy. I love this. Big thanks from you. Let's go random, right? What would he be? I've currently, if you don't know, I've Googled pizza toppings just to come up with an answer on the fly.
We can tell because you stopped looking in the camera again.
Yeah, so what I'm doing now is I'm talking. This is what you call filling air, John. And what I'm doing is I'm vamping. I'm just saying stuff while I read words until I have an answer that is, he is a salmon, right? And here's why. Here's why. Because you look at him, you go, that's different. That's different. You look at him, right? You're seeing him. He's running back and forth. He's got the body shape, right, of a target man or a defensive midfielder. But he's all over the shop. He's box to box. He's like Patrick Vieira. You can't stop him. He's all over the shop, right? But importantly, it's because he rises up at the back post like a salmon, nods it in, bang, bosh, let's go. You know, big plays from Thomas Souček, the salmon Souček. They say it's because it starts with S. That's another thing I'm going to say, which strengthens my point. Which strengthens.
Plus, Charlie. Plus, with the salmon, it probably doesn't look like it really should be there until you eat it and you think, oh, well, this is actually really good.
Exactly. Like sweet corn.
Tommy, on salmon as well. Everybody's having salmon on their pizza. If you actually, Charlie, if you don't actually try salmon pizza, I'm going to be disappointed now.
The problem is I don't like salmon. It's the problem, John. We run into here. I will try it for the sake of it. I'll write it down.
I'll give you a little secret.
Lay it on.
And also admit that this may not, in fact, be a secret whatsoever. But if you haven't had egg on pizza, you haven't lived.
Ooh.
So one of the other answers, so to pull the curtain back, one of the other answers I had was for Fabianski. I almost said raw eggs because you're definitely going to catch food poisoning. But that was just a pun on catch. I went with spicy jalapeno instead. But egg, I have heard, that's like an Italian thing, isn't it? Italians love pizzas are Italian, but don't they love a raw egg on pizza? Is that a thing I've seen?
So egg on, I've had it. Egg on pizza is absolutely beautiful.
Not a raw egg. A raw egg?
No, it's cooked in with the pizza.
Charlie just said raw egg. I just said raw egg. What are you on about?
Well, Charlie doesn't do things like the rest of us. He doesn't do normal. Charlie doesn't do normal things.
There's a reason I've got a stomach problem that I have to take medication for every day. It's mistakes from my past.
Curry Night 2 is in jeopardy after that answer. Wally, what is Souček? What topping is Souček on a pizza? What do you think?
I think he's mozzarella cheese because he's so like a string bean character, you know, so stretchy, you know, stretches into every position, always popping up, like you said, at the other side of the goal and knotted in. I love him. He's great.
Good stuff. How'd everybody do?
Wow, we had some big scores here. Let me add this up. Charlie had 29 likes, which is incredible.
Oh, nice.
But Tommy came through with 32 likes. I don't think we've ever had that many. Well done, both of you. Wow.
And that's amazing because I felt like I was being stingy earlier. No. And I was like, am I just...
You're a little easier than you think, John.
I know, tell my wife. Anyway, let me boot everybody back. And Tommy, you get to address the West Ham faithful. We're into the Christmas period now, or the holiday period. And, you know, the games are coming thick and fast. And should we be hopeful? Should we not be hopeful? What's your message to the West Ham faithful out there about how the next month is going to go?
I would say we can definitely be optimistic. There's no question. I think we've shown a huge resilience. I don't think we're a team actually that are going to fall off a cliff and go on like a horrible losing run anymore. I think we're just too difficult to play against. We're too difficult to score against. And, Charlie mentioned earlier there were games there where we were outplayed by Fulham. We were outplayed by Sheffield United, by Villa. We didn't lose them. We won them games, and that's the difference. Even when we're not at our best, we're still bloody difficult to play against, and we're still bloody difficult to beat. And that's what gives me more hope than anything, aside from the quality in the team. Obviously, when we do turn up and we play really, really well, we're a very, very good side, and we can win teams on merit. We can blow teams away. We did it against Wolves and Leicester, teams like that. But the thing for me, which I really love in this team, is just the absolute resilience, where we can win when we're not playing particularly well. And that gives me as much hope as anything. So I think we're going to be in the Europa League hunt right the way through.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Wally, as always. It's been Friday Night Lights. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, buy American Hammers TV stuff at the store. I don't know the link, but Lee does. Go watch one of his shows. He's great. And he always promotes that up front, so you only got to watch the first minute. You'll be fine. We'll see you next week, hopefully, with more questions, more guests. Tommy's going through to the final. Congratulations, Tommy, and we're looking forward to the next match. So come on, you guys. We'll see you later.
Come on, you Irons.